Hey Dreamers, this is Jade, and it's time for my January television journal flip. And the first series that I watched on Netflix was Anne with an E. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this show was shot somewhere else, or maybe like in Canada or something like that. And then Netflix would get the series after the season had aired. This was the third and final season. I hate that it's going off because I really enjoyed this interpretation of Anne with an E. And this is the Anne Shirley character based on the books by the Anne of Green Gable books written by L.M. Montgomery. And I think was a great show to introduce a new generation to the Anne Shirley character. I've always identified with her. I've really loved her since I was a kid. And funnily enough, my middle name is Anne with an E, and I also insist that people spell it with the E because you're not going to leave off my E. But anyway, really good show. Anne is this rambunctious, very imaginative kid, and I put this sticker here because if Don't Quit Your Daydream was a person, it would be Anne Shirley. I love her imagination. I love her spirit, her passion. So she gets kind of accidentally adopted by Marissa and Matthew, and she lives in this town called Prince Edward Island, and she basically turns it upside down. And of course, the people there are not used to someone like Anne, and they kind of don't take to her at first, but then everybody kind of just ends up loving her. So yeah, definitely a pretty good show, especially if you're wanting to introduce your kids to Anne. I think this is a good series to start with. So yeah, really enjoyed Anne with an E on Netflix. And here I just added a few quotes from the show. From Anne: "It's amazing how every day can be an adventure." This one, Anne had this thing about kindred spirits, and this one says, "Kindred spirits are not so scarce as I used to think." This one, Attraction by Sebastian. Attraction, I love the Sebastian character. "Yes, it's important, but love, that's what truly matters." And then you have Gilbert at the end. "You can only know something when you know it, not a minute before." Gilbert Blythe. So yeah, definitely a good series to watch. Check it out. It's on Netflix. The next show that I watched was Messiah, and this one I found very interesting. It started off kind of slow for me, but I'm glad I kept up with it because it got exponentially more interesting as the episodes went by. So it's about this guy who kind of comes out of nowhere creating these miracles, and he quickly gains a following of people. And then you have this CIA agent who believes that this man is a charlatan. So he has his following who thinks that he is the Messiah or Jesus come again. And then you have this CIA agent and some other agents that they do not believe that this man is the real deal or whatever. And what I found interesting about the series is that there is evidence to support both cases. There's evidence to support that this man could be some kind of divine entity, and then there's definitely evidence to support that this man is just a con man. He's a charlatan. He is out here conning all of these people. And then the way that it ends is a very cliffhangery. So you're like, oh my God, what happens? And it's crazy. Like, it just, again, the way it ends supports one theory over the other. Very interesting. And so I just added some quotes too. This one happened to be my favorite out of the whole entire series because I just find it to be so true. And this was a quote by the Messiah, and it just says, "That is God's greatest blessing, that in every moment we can create ourselves again." And I was like, yes, I believe that. And then there was another quote. I said, "Everybody worships. The only choice is what we worship. Some people kneel to money, some to power, and some to intellect." And he was just making a point that, everybody does worship something. So what is it that is important to you? Is it love? Is it money? Is it power? Is it greed? Is it whatever? So yeah. And then this here is just a part of a scripture that he had recited once all of these events had started going on. So yeah, this was a really good show. I really do hope that they come out with a season 2 because they cannot end this show, the way that it ended, I have to know what happened. So, next, absolutely adore this show. It was AJ and the Queen, starring Rupaul. And it's basically about Rupaul's character named Robert, and his drag queen character Ruby Red. He had been working the drag queen circuit for a long time, saved money up so he could buy his own club, and basically got taken for his money. And so now he has to road trip around the world to kind of recoup some of that, and hopefully he wants to win this big drag race contest in Texas. And then there is AJ, who is this misfit little person. She is, well, they say orphan, but her mother is very much alive. She ran away from the the home they put him in, social service, whatever. And she had been back and forth into her abandoned apartment. And that's how AJ and Ruby or Robert meet, because she comes in and she tries to steal from Robert. And then when she overhears that he's going to Texas, she has a grandfather in Texas and thinks that her grandfather will take care of her. So she stows away in his RV. And so basically they are on the road together. Getting to know one another, and at first you want to choke little AJ, but she ends up really, really growing on you, and it's just a fun, fabulous, heartwarming little show. And then I love the fact that RuPaul features all of his queens from his series Drag Race. It's just a wonderful show, and I really ended up loving his best friend in the series is a guy named Lewis, who is also a drag queen. But something happened to Lewis where he ended up losing his vision. But Lewis is freaking hilarious. Okay, so yeah, I tried to make this spread glamorous like the drag queens. But yeah, so check it out, AJ and the Queen. Unfortunately, I have heard that they will not be continuing on with the series, which sucks because everybody I know loved it. So maybe VH1 or somebody will pick it up. Who knows? But it's a good show. Check it out. Even though it's only going to be one season, possibly. I'm holding out hope that somebody will pick it up. And then we have The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And you guys know, I already told you how much I really like this adaptation of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I used to watch the regular show with Melissa Joan Hart when I was younger, and it was fun and teenagery. I do like that this show has a much darker tone to it. It's on Netflix, so I guess they can get away with that more than probably a regular network could. And so it explores more things like demons and hell and da da da. So if you're squeamish about stuff like that, this is not the show for you. But if you're into really spooky kind of shows and supernatural type stuff, then definitely check out The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. The only thing about this, first of all, I love her cousin Ambrose. He is my favorite. His voice is just everything, first of all. And then he's so smart and intelligent. And yeah, I just love Ambrose. And then her squad, she has some human friends that always have her back. So I really love them as well. And this, of course, her aunts Zilda and Hilda. Hilda tickles me because she's so, you think that she's just very sweet, lovely woman, but Hilda don't play, okay? Anywho, the only thing about this series is the cat, their familiar, Salem, is a part of this series, but he's kind of just like background. He's not really like, I don't know, for me, I feel like they don't make good use of Salem. Like, Salem is not used as much as he should be or could be in the series. And I always enjoyed Salem in Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I get that it's a little different, but I feel like they could make more use of Salem in this. But other than that, very good show. Love it. The third season just aired, and I'm pretty certain they will be coming back for a fourth season. So, yeah, pretty good. And lastly, oh my god, have you guys watched this show? It is called The Circle, and it aired a few months ago actually. So, but I watched it a few months ago, but I had to. Well, no, I watched it in January. So yeah, by now it's a few months ago. But yeah, it's a reality show where they take these contestants and they put them in the same building, but each of them have their own separate apartments, so they're isolated from each other, and which is totally appropriate in today's climate. But the only way that they can interact with each other is through this social app called The Circle. And so some of the people come in as their genuine selves, and some of the people come in as kind of like catfishes, like they are portraying somebody different, thinking that that will get them better rankings or whatever. Because as the show goes on, day by day, they have to rank each player from first to last, and whoever's last basically gets kicked out. They end up replacing a few people or whatever, so it goes on for a little while, but it's very interesting. It's a social experiment, and I really love that Netflix is starting to dip their toes into the reality TV series game. And then the host, Michelle Buteau, I think that's her name, she is hilarious. She narrates what's going on in the show, and it's just, I don't know, so it's just a really good fun show to watch, especially in times like this. It's funny, and these are real people, and I found myself wanting to be friends with these real people, especially Chris. Love him. And then you have like the core people that kind of just come in, and you'll have your favorites or whatever. But it's an interesting show. I personally was satisfied with who won the money, so check it out. I hope that they end up doing another round of The Circle. I know they did one for Brazil, but yeah, I don't speak Spanish, so, and I'm not finna watch a whole, subtitled type of thing. And lastly, I did watch Watchmen with Regina King, and I love me some Regina King ever since the 227 days. Shout out to Brenda. However, I did not go for this show like that. It was just okay for me. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Because it's very confusing. And even though I stuck with it, I was still pretty much confused. I mean, by the end of it, you kind of pretty much get what's going on, and it gets interesting more towards the end of the story than the beginning for me. I know a lot of other people that just really, really loved it and really, really rave about the show. And perhaps, I think it's also a comic book, so perhaps maybe they're also fans of the comic book. I don't know. But it just, I don't know, it just didn't like really do it for me or whatever. I liked the way that it ended. It was very cliffhangery. But then I found out that the creator is not going to do a follow-up season. And see, this is the problem I have. Like, the same thing happened with The Get Down. Love that show on Netflix. Where these creators, they come up with these concepts and they put out these, I wouldn't necessarily say this is a good show, but they put out these good shows and then they don't want to follow up anymore. They're like, oh no, I got other stuff to do. Stop creating stuff that you're not going to follow through with. Like, stop leaving people hanging. That crap irks me. Anyway, so yeah, I would, if you're into like comic booky stuff, I would give Watchmen a go. It personally was not my favorite, so it was just okay, but it wasn't horrible, so, And then, this was the want for me for this month, Dracula. It was kind of interesting, but I just read the book too, not too long ago. And I don't know, it just, I like the fact that Van Helsing is a woman in this series, and that she spans throughout the generations. Because it starts off like way in the Victorian age London, and then ends up in modern day America or whatever. But so you have the Van Helsings throughout the ages or whatever, and I really appreciated that. She started off as a nun, so a vampire hunting nun, I guess, or whatever. But so I appreciated that, but overall, I don't know, I couldn't really get into this show. It was kind of slow, and then there was only 3 episodes, but they were like an hour and a half each. So yeah, not the biggest fan of Dracula here. It's funny because I like the Dracula stories. There There was one that came out a few years ago, a movie that I really enjoyed. So I guess it just really depends on how people adapt it. I didn't really go for this one, but somebody out there probably will love it. So that is it for January for me. If you have any comments or questions about anything, you can definitely leave those below. If you're new here, consider subscribing to my channel. Hit that like button if you like this video. Apparently it does something to the algorithm that helps my videos get seen a little more, so I would appreciate that. And yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys are out there being safe. I hope you're happy. I hope you're healthy, and I will catch you all in the next video. Bye.